guys have. I'd like to get from everybody at least by the 21st of December, so that gives you guys 2 weeks from today to read the bylaws. They are posted on our website. You know, any suggestions you guys have for change, and then we'll need to, I'll try to put something together, you know, just after, have it out to you guys just after Christmas. And then, we'll have 4 days between the 26th and 29th to vote on accepting those bylaws or not. But if we are gonna change the bylaws, we have to get it done before the 29th. So, and we have to submit it to SC Jaaf.
Correct, in the city.
In the city.
How many days do you have to approve the bylaws if they get changed?
So, so from, today's the 7th, so, between now and the next 2 weeks, between now and the 21st, any propositions for changes, I would need for you guys to submit it to me at the chapter80@norcojaaf.com email. And, I will put it together, and have something out to you guys by the 25th or 26th. Of course, nobody's gonna want it on Christmas, but, I will get out to you guys by the 26th, and then that'll give you guys 4 days to read over, make any suggestions for, changes, and then we can submit them hopefully by the 29th to both the city and to Norco Jaaf.
It's about a 3-week process for 4 weeks.
Right. Yes. So the 28th would be 4 weeks from today.
So, did you say that you vote on did you say like the old board is the one that votes on the new bylaws?
It's gonna go, it needs to go through the new board. We're
Yeah,
closing out the
it'll be
old board now,
Okay,
but-
I was sometimes
but-
thinking like, wouldn't it be more?
you know.
It's the new board.
It's the new board, so any changes that you guys have, we can put together, you know, old and new, and then, the new board will get the final vote on it, because it'll turn over to you guys that point.
Okay, new equipment, so talk about new helmets. So first, on new helmets, we're still hoping for a big yes, that we have a sponsor that is going to pick up new helmets for us. So right now, from Rydell, I have a quote right here for 175 new helmets. Total after tax and freight and everything is about $30,000, and we have a sponsor that may be sponsoring all $30,000. Okay, so that being said, we do need to talk about what the league needs. So shoulder pads, that doesn't include shoulder pads, but we're gonna have money for shoulder pads. The Pursuit, which is the one we looked at, I think is the one with the buckles, I think that's a great shoulder pad. We're gonna have money that we can allocate and budget for next year to buy shoulder pads. I think they're $55 a pad, we can buy a lot of shoulder pads. We have to retire a lot of shoulder pads. We haven't collected all the helmets yet, so we don't know how many helmets we're getting rid of, but I think it's about 160.
Right.
Okay, so there's a lot of helmets that need to go.
We have 160 that need to be replaced this year, and also too, that sponsorship is hanging on a limb, so that's why we were really trying to make a push this year to have that extra profit to run the snack bar, so that we could purchase, the new helmets that we need next year. So, if that doesn't fall through, we do have to be prepared to invest every penny that we have into new helmets.
Which doesn't mean we have to buy all $30,000 for new helmets.
Right.
We can buy 50, and we can buy a little year over year, right? And we'll still try to get sponsors, but literally year over year, and rebuild our helmet
It's
program.
160 helmets by 26.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, we have some,
Which is still,
we have,
which is still a lot.
we have some time,
for
but
it, that's still gonna be a
it,
chunk.
look at the end of the day, if the sponsor comes back and says I'm not gonna do 30, but I'm gonna do 15, that's still a lot of new helmets we can provide for the kids.
Right.
Okay? And then on top of that, with, obviously that's our goal here, we have money in the bank, we need to provide new equipment for kids, so the helmets, the shoulder pads, tackling pads, anything else that we feel as coaches that commissioners that we're gonna need, including cheer, those speakers, they suck, they don't work, right? So we need to start looking at speakers that will be better for the cheerleaders, that we're not gonna rely on that little box anymore. So we need to start thinking, because I need to effectively build a budget for next year, knowing what we're gonna have in the bank account after January 1st, so I can build a budget. Excuse me, guys.
So is there anything that you guys are gonna need for cheer next year?
Speakers, at least one per team.
At least one per team, and you guys usually, so it's however many you get for both, right? So 9 at least, would be.
We had 7 this year, but if you base it hopefully on one person.
So we need to start looking at that, and if you can find, cheer, if you guys can find a speaker that doesn't need to be plugged in, that's going to be loud enough, let me know. Okay? And then other than that, any equipment that's gonna be needed, obviously, we're gonna have a budget to work with, but any equipment that's gonna be needed, we can work with. Is that it? That's right. You know me.
We have to address so as far as equipment goes, well, as far as for the budget goes, is there anybody, new board, when we conduct a new board in the group too, is there anybody who would like to be part of the budget committee for the 2024 season? So one thing that we haven't done before that needs to be done is we need to set a budget and we need to operate within it. So anytime, when it comes to cheer, we know that cheer's gonna purchase jackets, so there's not gonna be, you don't have to bring it before a vote every time you guys have to buy jackets, we just have to check.
Have the budget as long as
Right,
it's all
so as
within
long as
this
it's operating
budget.
within budget, if it's pre-approved, then we don't have to go back and get a board approval for every time that we have to spend money. So that's something that we can set kind of based upon our P&L from this year.
Correct.
And, is there anybody who'd like to be a part of that committee? Set the budget.
I have experience, so yes, I'll do it.
Okay, because we've never effectively operated off a budget. If we build a budget, it's gonna better help us understand how we need to run our season.
Who else volunteers?
Okay. Melissa, Renee,
And then we can put it out to all the new board members that aren't, yeah, cause they're not here.
Yeah, like for those, there's usually like, if you put it in your bylaws, you can state that there's like a cap that they can vote upon, but beyond that,
Correct.
then it has to have a full board.
so that was one of the things we wanted to change in our bylaws this year, is that we vote on a budget, we approve a budget, and operate within it. Anytime we have to operate outside of that, that's where it has to go before the board.
Correct.
So how many years have we not operated off a budget? Ever?
This is the first year that I've had anything to do with money
So
on
was
the
it
board.
this presidency or was it last presidency? Like, we're running a business, so there's never been a budget?
I can't speak to that because
I'm just
came on
asking
board
like
in
the people
July,
who've been here
so-
before.
So technically
never
right
been a
now,
budget.
we're building a budget, so we know.
So was
How to
it just
operate.
this presidency or was the last presidency also? Is this the first presidency we never had a budget before?
I've been a part of the board for 4 years, we've never had a budget.
And has there only been one president since you've been involved?
Correct. No, there's been 3, so I was
So
here.
who's the president before?
I came on when it was Tim Jackson, then we went from Tim Jackson to,
Brady.
let me talk. We went from Tim Jackson to Frazier.
Brady was before that though.
Huh?
Brady was before.
Brady was a commissioner, he was never president. So Tim Jackson was the president, Brady was the commissioner. Then we moved to Frazier as the president with Carranza as the commissioner. And then we were at Anthony Calderon the last 2 years. And then when Anthony Calderon stepped down, we voted in Johnny.
Okay, so 4 years, you're saying no budget?
It's 4 presidents.
And it's not for lack of trying, it's been suggested, I suggested it multiple times over the years, but it just never happened.
So QuickBooks.
That's what Johnny got us.
QuickBooks was
Good job,
implemented
Johnny.
in July, the date might be wrong, but July 27th.
Around there, yeah. So
We implemented QuickBooks as a board and we opened a new bank account.
in
So-
June, we, one of the topics of discussion in one of our meetings was that we needed to look to find 3 people who were willing to take over next year, since Anthony had confirmed it was his last year, and Sarah as well. And so our goal was to find 3 people who were willing to go on the bank accounts.
Hold on, before we go too far off, we can close our.
Yeah, go
agenda
ahead,
and
I
open-
just wanna know
go-
about the
go open.
budget.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
yes,
Okay.
we'll move back to that, so,
Spreadsheet information, but not a budget.
Spreadsheet.
is there anything else that we discussed prior to the regular meeting?
A list of expenses.
So we can close our regular board meeting
I know, but
Okay.
and then we can open to, we'll open for,
they didn't do it.
for questions and comments,
Okay,
okay?
They didn't do it.
That'll be part of the.
okay, well,
They relied on the treasurer.
Do I-
Do we-
Do I,
If there, for questions.
do I take down all the questions and comments? I would, okay.
I would take no order, record it.
so we're going to close the meeting until the comments and everything are done. We'll
Okay,
keep it
okay.
open. Yeah.
Okay, so then,
It's a
you ready then?
sentence.
Hold on, I gotta figure out.
I messed up.
Big problem.
Okay, so at this time, we're gonna open it up for questions and comments, but we have a lot of us in here, and we've never had something like this before, so please help with one person at a time, and we kinda need to keep it controlled. Okay, we're gonna do the best that we can to answer any questions that you guys have, but we need to do it one at a time in an orderly fashion.
So we can continue with Jordan's questions.
I'd rather you guys go through all the findings that you guys had, so we could go and rebuttal anything that's true or not true.
As far as in regards to
Why don't you?
the allegations made?
It's just everything you guys are here to talk about, right? We don't gotta play, like, let's address why we're here.
So,
Like, that's why we're here, you know?
so in July-ish, don't know the exact date, when I became president,
And usually when you become president of Norco Jaaf, right, you have to serve on the board first, and then they.
So I was on the board.
But then you could go and, first year you weren't on the board, right? And then you
Correct.
became on the board, right? And you became the president, which rarely ever happens. Anybody disagree with that? For someone never ever be a part of Jaaf to then show up and then is the president, that is kind of brought in by the former vice president, president, and commissioner. Really never happened before Norco Jaaf history. My dad's been here since 1989.
so for you guys,
Right, so-
for those of you guys that wanna know my history,
And it's not, I'm not attacking
No,
you,
no,
I'm
I
just saying
just
how
want
it
transparency.
happened, right? They just don't bring you in out of nowhere unless there's issue.
so transparency, I was brought on.
Not that
and-
you've been here forever, you know.
I was brought on in the way I like to talk. They thought it would be best for me to become that sponsorship sports council role, which I did. And I went out and got some sponsors, started working with the city sports council. We had
You
two
were
people-
on the board at that time, they
I was on
voted
the
you
board
up
at
for
that
that
time.
position, okay?
Yes, I
You
was
were
on the,
voted on in January.
I was voted on in January. I was a sports
Of
council.
last year, 2022?
Of 2023.
23.
2023.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, we had two people vacate the board and at that time,
Who are those two people?
Anthony Calderon and Sarah Shank.
So
Not
you
in
got-
that order.
Okay, so you got brought in on what date?
Well, I mean, effectively, I was president, or no, sports council
I can
rep.
tell you the date, hold on.
Well, it's gonna be January.
Nope, I can tell you the date that he was brought on. Let me just
So
go
you
back to my
got,
meeting.
you got brought on as a sports council
And sponsorship.
and sponsorship person, and you did a great job at that. Okay, and that was what date?
We're pulling it right now.
That one I don't have, that was January.
But that was the new board.
That was in-
That
that was
was
in
the
the
first
board.
meeting, so we weren't
But we
here.
have board minutes, right?
We
Yeah.
do.
So what was the date he got brought on?
Let me look up the January board minutes, cause I don't have those
Do you
ones.
have the one when I was brought on?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
trying to look right up.
Okay,
And this is 23 or 22?
23.
This is all this current.
This is
year.
all
All current
fiscal
year.
year
Okay.
or seasonal year 23.
Because you were a Pee-wee last year, right? Your kid played on the Pee-wee 2
It
team.
was January 19th of 2023.
Okay, so he was the sports council sponsorship guy in January of 2023.
Correct.
Okay. And then from there, you got promoted to president when?
So, not in that order, but we have.
7/26.
So,
Okay,
July 26th.
7/26. And why'd you get voted in?
So we had, our vice president and treasurer vacate the position.
And why did they do that?
She no longer wanted to be a part of this board.
She just stepped down for no
She
reason?
stepped down.
For no reason?
She didn't give us a reason.
She didn't give us a reason, she walked out.
She left her in a meeting.
There wasn't an altercation or fight that was gonna happen, or she didn't
There
get
was a
attorney, she didn't get
disagreement.
attorney involved
Probably ask her.
for slander or?
Directly.
Hold on.
This is
Hold on.
this is what happened.
Well, I'm
During
asking the
meeting-
board,
Hold on,
right? This is
hold
what
on.
we're here for, to get down to the
Tony,
bottom of
Is
this.
it okay with everybody that this is being filmed?
Yeah, this
Yes,
is a
it's
public,
It's a public
forum.
event.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So, again, people, we gotta get our emotions out of this, and who we have friends with, we have to go and do what's right for the kids.
So here, transparency, right? I had some questions.
What were those questions?
Specifically, hey, could we do youth merchandise? We've had a lot of people asking about youth merchandise.
We've been doing that for a while, right?
We haven't done it.
We haven't done
We've done it this year.
They had
Prior,
drops, so it was like
What does that mean?
every 3 months they would have a drop of.
hold on.
But not youth merchandise.
Youth merchandise, we
There
had
was
a lot
never
of,
offered.
a lot of parents asking me, hey, could we get youth merchandise for the little guys? So during that board meeting, I asked if we can get some youth merchandise, or why do we not do youth merchandise? Okay, what effectively was said was, to me, do you just wanna take all my jobs? You're taking all my jobs, you wanna take all my jobs, and it spiraled from there, and she quit.
And I was under the impression that
And she
the
was angry when
person,
she
the
quit.
vice president who did youth merchandise, right? Which
What's
was
that?
who was the vice president, Sarah?
Yes.
Sarah was, that's correct.
She was in
So-
charge of merchandise.
She was in charge of merchandise, right? And the money that she was collecting for a Venmo
Hold on, we're going off
account,
topic though, you're
But-
asking
but
the
she's
history of
merchandise, right?
presidency and how I became a part of this board, and you're going to
I'm
merchandise.
just asking why would she would get upset?
I think he's
The-
just
the-
asking
I think it's
more
because she was feeling challenged by me, and I was
But was she
questioning.
doing her job
I
right?
was questioning her role, and maybe nobody's questioned her role prior, and I was questioning role, and she felt
And how long
challenged by
has
it,
she
didn't
been
want-
serving as the vice president?
Oh, I don't.
How long has she
Well,
been part
technically
of it?
last year, correct me if I'm wrong, I wasn't here, but technically last year she was president.
I believe she was, it
No,
was,
where Anthony was suspended.
Right,
They
she
was
was
suspended, she was president.
she's been on the board for, 4 or 5 years.
So she's about 5 years she's been on the board?
And we can't, we can't really say why exactly she quit. We can only give you our perspective of the events, and that was that at a meeting, she did not like being questioned, and she decided that she was going to step down that night.
And she
So,
was selling the merchandise?
She was in charge of the merchandise, that's correct.
And the merchandise that she was selling, was it going to her personal bank
She
account or
was in
to the
charge
league?
of ordering the merchandise, she was not
I'm just
selling the
asking,
merchandise.
was the money going to her
No,
bank
you
account
on
or was it
record
going
said that she
to?
was in charge of selling the merchandise, I'm clarifying to you.
Okay,
that
so
she
was the
in
money
charge of
going to her
ordering the
personal bank
merchandise.
account or was it
So-
going to
oh.
Junior All-American's bank
So
account?
any charges that
Or was it
people,
going to Maddie, or
So-
Maggie's?
Part of what we're,
Mm,
let's take a step back.
for sure.
What the city has asked me to do, did I already say this?
No.
No, I didn't.
No,
So,
you didn't.
so when I became president, I was called into the city. The city had some concerns. Our financials to the city, showed that we were effectively negative in the bank account.
For sure.
So they called me to the city and they wanted
Makes
to make
sense.
sure that we, as our organization, were in a positive position that we're gonna be able to effectively pay our bill to the city.
And this is in July when they brought you on?
This is in July.
Okay,
Okay, so at that point, I opened up QuickBooks, which we just implemented,
okay.
and I told them that we opened a new bank account.
Who was the bank account
Bank
under
of America.
before?
What's that?
Who was the bank account?
Chase.
No, but who was it under? Was it under Maggie?
It
what's
was
her name?
Narco activities.
But Maggie was still
So
in charge of the bank
name-
account,
The
right?
name was Norco Activities Boosters. The
And-
person on that account was Margaret.
Margaret, who's the main signer on that?
Margaret.
So Margaret was still, even though she's been resigned from the board, she still had the
She
bank
was still in
account?
the bank account.
Okay,
Yes.
so how did we sign checks and things like that? Did
We weren't the
forge
ones
your
signing it.
signature, or?
I was the one signing checks.
So who signed her name? Cause there's a lot of checks.
Anthony was the
that-
signer of the checks.
So was he signing Anthony or her name?
We can't speak to
I-
that.
We
can't speak to that.
No.
It was-
Everybody
Well,
that's
it's-
currently on the board right now had
Wouldn't
no,
that-
Well, we
Did
could
not- we're
look,
not check
just
signers.
a check that's got signed by somebody.
If you're
Pretty
asking if
easy.
the signature had an A or whatever, or an M on it, no, it was
But
just.
that's a
it was-
huge
it was
thing that we
scribbled.
need to know,
It
right? If
was scribbled.
someone's not on the board anymore, right?
just to be,
And this is, I'm just trying to,
No, that's
let's
fine.
have
It was
transparency, right?
scribbled.
so just,
So-
I think I can answer that, so just to be
Yeah,
clear.
this isn't an attack on anybody in this
No,
room.
no,
We're
it's
just
fine.
trying to figure out
We're
what's
answering
going on, right?
We're trying to
So-
provide you the transparency, and I think I could probably help you answer it, so just to be clear,
So Maggie still had the bank account, even though she was not part of JAF
Can you give her
anymore.
a
Can you
chance
let
to
her,
share
let,
it?
let
I'm just
them-
asking the correct
I
question, so
understand
I'll
that,
give
but
you
it's
a
being
trying to
interrupted
But there's a lot
by
of people that are
them trying
jumping
to
in.
explain and answer your question, so let them answer
We're
the
just getting
question, and then
started, so I
you can
haven't
answer
had
the
nothing but
follow-up
time.
So back in June, there was a discussion, where in one of our board meetings where Anthony was talking about, moving on next year and getting, other people in on the bank account, so that we can continue operating business. And, there were questions asked at that meeting, and Anthony did admit that the Chase account that we were using at the time was still in Maggie, Frazier, and Carranza's name.
What made you
So-
guys ask those questions?
Because he wanted us on the account, and the three people that were asking majority of the questions are all, one of them is a business owner themselves, I work in a professional environment, I am an executive with the company I work for, Johnny's,
I was one of them.
So
Johnny-
Anthony was never on
Johnny's
any of
also
these
asking.
accounts?
No,
so, no.
So the president of
So-
the league was never on any of the bank accounts?
no.
Oh, wow.
So Johnny, so we had put down a firm hard line that, none of us felt comfortable going on the account and being financially responsible if we didn't have clear accounting. And
As
the
you
only way
should.
that I was willing to do it was if we accounted all the way back to January 1st. This is before the city told us that we had to do it.
And before I
So-
cut you off, right, and I get that.
Right,
Do
so.
we have books from the whole time that Anthony was
So
president?
we don't have books, we were able to download, the bank transactions back to January 1, before the account was closed. And that is what we use to rebuild all of our accounting. So we use the bank transactions back to January 1. One of the things, and so we did that, we rebuilt our accounting, and we just finished that today. So it's.
So who was on the board at that time when we had the account still in Maggie's name and we didn't know any of this information? Who was the president at that time? Anthony? Who was the vice president?
Correct,
Sarah?
correct.
You were what? The head AD, right?
I was a chapter AD. I've
Anybody
never.
else here on the board that was a part of that?
Yep, I was here.
And what was your role?
I'm the chair coordinator.
You're the cheer coordinator, and that was it? Okay.
So,
Davey was
trans,
as well.
just so you, where the
And
history of
Davey
this
left.
is the city came to me after I showed them we had money in the bank, so we're in a positive financial position.
Mhm.
The city said, I need you to rebuild and reconcile your bank accounts January 1st through this year. We didn't implement an accounting system, QuickBooks, until sometime in July. I believe I opened up the bank account with $300 in July.
Okay.
Okay, so prior
So
to
we
that.
started negative and you got us positive.
We didn't start negative, we started this year.
In debt, right?
Was that?
And then we started in debt
We
with bills that
started
we
this
owed and
year-
different things.
Well, it depends how you look at it, because we started this year with money in the bank account, we owed some bills from last year.
Okay,
Okay, so.
So in
we-
debt.
We started with about $1,200 in the bank account.
okay. And how much
Okay.
were we in debt?
I don't know.
As long as we've been
It's
on
gonna-
the
it's gonna
account,
be a
we've never
portion
been
for-
in a
It's going
zero.
a portion for the city.
About 20-something thousand dollars, weren't? for
About
not paying-
$20,000.
Yeah, about a little 20, over 20,000 in debt, okay?
So then that's what we did. So the hard part was we had to go and rebuild books from scratch.
Mhm. And you guys did a great job doing that, that's why we're all here.
Which means, all we had was a bank account, so
Mhm.
we had to import all the Chase transactions from January 1, which is what our responsibility is, from January 1 into QuickBooks. And then at that point, this has been very difficult,
It has.
but we had to go rebuild all these charges
Mhm.
from nothing. We had to
So-
start calling, and Rebecca, I talked to Rebecca more than I talked to my wife.
For sure.
Um,
I talked to
So-
you guys as kids more than I talked to my wife.
So it's been a lot to rebuild a bank account from scratch, right?
For
There's no accounting prior.
Yeah.
So
And isn't
we-
that
we-
odd to the board though, that there's no accounting?
it is, that's why when I
This is why we
it is, that's
implemented
why I
it.
said I
Yeah.
won't be a part of this board unless we have an accounting
And
system.
who
We need
is,
to-
what's the pecking order when it comes down to running this business? It goes president and who's the treasurer?
Well, we.
Sarah
I-
was
I-
the treasurer.
So who's
Well,
the
no.
treasurer?
Well,
Sarah was
Sarah
treasurer
was the
this
treasurer,
year.
right?
This year, I'm treasurer because I
But
didn't wanna
who
have
in the
anybody
past
be
was the
responsible for
treasurer?
it. What?
Who in the past was the treasurer?
Treasurer, Sarah's listed on our taxes as treasurer
Okay, so it goes Anthony,
and vice president.
So
president.
Anthony was listed as the
Sarah,
president, Sarah was listed as the treasurer and
Vice president and treasurer, okay?
That's what.
And does that common to have your vice president and treasurer as the same person?
No, but
Kinda
is
weird,
it,
right?
is it common? I'm a president. I'm also the treasurer right now, and I took
Okay.
that responsibility because
There was no
I'm the
one
one who wanted to implement QuickBooks. I couldn't expect anybody else on this board.
to go
Who
through
doesn't
what
know
you're
how to-
going
to
through.
try to rebuild it.
Totally
So,
get it. That's
right
why we gotta
now-
hire the right people on the board to.
So
fill
right
those
now,
roles.
I'm president, and I'm still the only person on the new B of A bank account.
And I don't think we're here to
Who could,
question
I know,
what's
but I'm just
happening now.
transparency, right?
Yeah.
Who's on it and who could sign for it, because if
Yeah.
anything was disrupted or something was unaccounted for, I can't expect anybody else on this board to take accountability for that. It has to fall on me.
For sure.
So that's why
So
we're still.
before
this
that
way.
point, right, when you guys are having the president, the vice president, the treasurer handle you guys' books, no one thought it was odd that there was no books done?
Whenever we
And-
had a
and real-
treasurer's
and real
report.
quick, just before you
But that was
start,
the year before,
Wait,
that was the
listen,
year
wait,
prior.
and also
that
with-
she was listed as those
Right,
22.
but even the person that's signing for it, if we're forging someone's, right, checks and all these things, that's bank fraud. So why is, this just should be transparent, that's bank fraud.
Right,
You can't
we-
sign for somebody else who isn't that person, and if
Right.
Maggie's still on these things, we can't have bank fraud going on in our youth football organization. You can't have the vice president, who also does merchandise, who also has a video company, who does pictures for the kids and charges them, plus the president, all in charge of the same money pool.
Well, that's.
Pretty odd,
But
pretty odd
just
to me.
because Maggie's name was on the bank account, doesn't mean that the bank account wasn't
But it seems
functioning.
like what I heard was Maggie thought this was transitioned out, and she
She
didn't know.
did.
That
she-
is correct.
Maggie,
And
Maggie
Maggie
did
didn't-
was.
These are just the
Maggie-
things that I
Maggie
got
was
from
not
us.
aware that she had
Maggie
been
didn't know
switched
that
over.
people from this board were signing for
I
it.
called Maggie
That's pretty
personally.
fucking,
Right, which is
Mm,
why
pretty
they
sketchy to
stopped,
me.
which is why they corrected
I
it.
Hold on,
think,
That's why when we came in July is when it really started for most of us. I own a business myself, so.
we all
it
do,
was
right?
immediately a
And
red
no one
flag to
runs it
me
like this.
That there's no profit loss, there's nothing, like there's no QuickBooks, we had nothing to go on.
but,
And so
but
why
that's
we-
how embezzlement happens. If there's a board that's in place, you don't overlook these things. If you're running a company that brings in probably $500,000 a year,
That is so untrue. We do not bring $500,000 in.
but there's expenses, right?
I wish.
well, we
But let's
see,
just say
we
300
kids
kids times
collect and we move about
$450 times it's
$127,000 a year.
$250,000, right? Merchandise, There's a 7-on-7 brings a lot of money. Uniform, there's,
Right,
bro,
but-
we could add this up. It's about a $500,000 business if.
It's
if
about
we had to get-
$130,000, it's
Yeah,
in that
to
range,
your
it's not a
Not
half.
profit, I'm just saying overall. what
No,
comes in.
overall, like money in, money
Yeah,
out, it's
it's-
I'm just
130,000 a
saying
year.
what comes in each year.
But
Right,
to
it's
your
about
point,
130,000.
if the
So
president and the,
$450 per athlete
For tackle, and we
for
have
tackle, and how many
So,
kids do
hold
we
on.
have?
Hold on.
The sibling discounts.
But how many kids do we have?
about 180.
Hold on, hold on.
Where's the exact?
I have the exact P&L in front of me, so if I include,
but to your
all
point,
income.
Jordan,
I hear you,
you
Mama.
need to know all that.
I-
To your point,
I-
if the president and the secretary are
And the vice
handling the
president,
books
mhm.
and they're giving the board a spreadsheet, telling them what's what, then the board,
But at a certain point,
accepts
we
that
can't
as
look at
data.
it, we have to look at, is this
I don't
a fake
disagree with you
spreadsheet?
that more questions should
Is
have
this
been
a
asked.
fake spreadsheet, right?
so,
Or
so,
is this
so
a
there was
real-
financials that were
real
done by the
spreadsheet?
prior people on the board, and that was done on a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet
so-
that was shared with the board.
so
That's
to
how
your
financials
point, they
shared.
were given financials,
It's just all
okay?
fake.
Well, whatever, they weren't
You
right.
don't know,
How do
you don't
Yeah.
know how.
But how do you not question that? Sorry.
We did.
No, we
started
did
questioning
question
it
it,
in
we
July.
absolutely questioned
We
it.
started questioning
Yeah.
it in
I'm
July.
just asking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
why
not
we're
that
here
there
today.
was no
Well,
discussion
my
of
thing is
finances,
just simple,
we
simple
were
as
moving
this,
towards
as simple
One
as
at a
this,
time.
right? And we'll go back to the original thing.
I know.
If we have to pay
Please.
more for our Super Bowl rings than they cost, why would anybody charge the kids who just won a Super Bowl more than the ring cost? And why are there certain people who don't have to pay for that Super Bowl ring? And why is the team paying more money to pay for those people?
So,
Cause you got a ring for free, your husband did, your kid did.
Hold on, hold on,
Well,
let me
it's
address
on
the rings.
It's
If-
public
if-
information.
if we wanna be transparent, I'll address the rings, okay?
But there's a lot of things we need to address, so let's go back to this first thing.
Well,
Okay.
you're jumping all around, I can't stay with you.
Alright, so
So
let's stay with the
Thing.
first question.
Let's go back.
So what's
So
your
Ma-
question?
the originally was Maggie was a part of this, right?
Okay.
And we never changed the bank over and the signatures over to her,
Correct.
right? So we've been having people forge her name and sign stuff that she had no clue that was being signed for still.
One
they
thing that-
haven't
one
been
thing
You
that
guys
we
said that was
cannot do.
correct, right?
Right, and one
That's
thing we
correct.
cannot
Right.
do is comment on what the other people who were running the business before us were doing. I don't know.
All I could do is ask the
I don't
board
know
who's
he
here.
wasn't signing his name and they were getting cash. I
Yeah.
don't know, I
I
don't
still
know
think
any
it's
of
odd that
that.
his wife's on the board, to be honest with you, right? If he's the person who's here and his wife's on the board, and there's allegations against both of them,
What,
Like-
What
so,
allegations are against?
and we'll
Hold
go,
on, hold on,
there's a list
hold on.
that's
So
out,
let's-
trust me,
one
we'll
thing
go
at a time.
through, we'll go through it.
Okay, yeah.
Guys, listen, we have a hard stop in here because they only gave us till 7:45. I want to be
Keep that in mind.
transparent and answer these questions. We have to be out of here by 7:45. That's the library's rules.
Okay.
Okay, so, in
Let's
regards
go
to
to the
your
most
income,
important stuff.
in regards to your income, let's do question by question. I have our P&L here. All income that I've reconciled from January 1
Okay.
until now, this includes merchandise, snack bar, everything. We have collected $219,523.09.
That's awesome.
I do. Okay, so that's all.
I don't
income.
need a question in what.
No, that's fine.
now.
this is
You're
your welcome
asking
to have
someone to
It's
provide it. Does
about
anybody
what's
else want it?
happening before this.
But we don't know what was happening.
But how do we not have books from, it's a nonprofit organization. We have a fiduciary duty to make sure
Hold on.
that
One
the
question.
money is coming into this youth football organization. How do we not know what money was here to go off of for the years that
We
these
have
people were
only the
in?
spreadsheets that were provided.
Don't you think that's kind of odd that there's no documentation before
So-
the new board took over?
So it
That's
is
a
odd.
huge failure on the board, everybody who's ran Norco Jaaf for the last couple of years, to not have financials and be in the hole where we owe the district and people money.
But they did
How-
have a spreadsheet, which is
Mama
a
Bear, I feel
financial.
you, I'm
Which
just
is a
saying, any
financial.
business that this happens, nobody
There just
just
was not a
not
legitimate
happen.
there
accounting
wasn't,
software.
there wasn't a legitimate accounting software. There wasn't, we didn't see.
It was.
So it's just put in Excel sheet, take out money from my rings and for my vacation and for this.
So we do have,
we
and
just do
another
whatever we
thing that we
want.
do run is we run Square. So we have Square, and so everything that we charge was supposed to have
So
been
what
run
about, when was the last time cash was deposited into the account?
November of
22nd
20.
of 2023.
Dang, that's a long time that a lot of money came in for merchandise, for paying, because
Hold on.
I was told there's a $7,000 balance from my midget teams in 2022 that I was supposed to pay for, because I said I was supposed to sponsor these kids, and a lot of them paid cash. So you could say that either cash came in.
Who
and
told
it
you,
got taken.
Hold on,
who
hold on,
told you
everybody
you
stop.
owe
Everybody stop.
$7,000?
There's a lot of people, and I've heard it from remember last year was my first year in this league. There's a lot of people.
So
that
it's
make-
been about
Oh,
18 months we didn't
Jordan,
have
hold
any
on.
information.
There's a lot of people making a whole lot of accusations.
I'm just knowing, everything I
I'm-
fact checked was fact checked.
I'm a factual person.
Me too.
Okay, so there's a lot of accusations. I bet you half of them cannot be proven. However,
I think a lot could be proven if you just go back and ask the parents, did you pay cash or check?
First of all, who told
card.
you you owe $7,000? They're apparently a person with a lot of knowledge. Who is that?
hold on, I did tell you the other day that I sent you an invoice to collect money from you.
That was for this year, that's
Okay.
fine, but I'm talking about last year's team,
Okay.
why there was such a big difference in balance.
So look at, there's accusations and there's stuff that you can prove by facts. That's what I'm doing. So you all understand, it has taken a lot of work to actually gather these facts, and that's what we have done for January 1.
We can only go to
I can
January
only
1.
go on facts.
And isn't that crazy though, cause all the investment happened before you came in.
I don't care, honestly.
But that's what we have to address. We have to address what happened before you
I do
came.
not have to address that.
Cause at Penn State, let's just say, or USC, all the money that got stolen, you have to address what happened, which is why everyone's getting fired or leaving, the whole board. Cause we have to address what happened before the new board came on. The new board that's coming in is great. You guys are doing a
We're
great
addressing
job.
it. That's why we're putting
But what
things in
happened
place.
before you
As
guys
far
were
as-
in?
As far as about a 7,000 bill for you, that's not something we were aware of. We were, one thing that did happen, is that, the league did pay for the Super Bowl rings, and Anthony did collect payments for those Super Bowl rings. Believe he charged everybody $194.52, through the square. So, one of the things that we noticed
We
when we were
charge more for the
rebuilding.
rings, right? And we-
Correct.
Why would
And
we
one
do
of
that
the-
to our kids and our families who just won a Super Bowl?
The rings were originally told that they're $344.52, okay? That was what I was told was the original cost of the rings.
Yeah,
I
that's what people paid.
got an invoice from Jostens. Apparently that invoice came with a discount,
Okay,
okay?
so it's false.
So-
So why, but also, why are people in that group getting rings? Anthony wasn't a coach for last year.
So
He was
when
kicked off the board and he wasn't a coach, so why is he getting a ring
when
for free?
I,
Why is Sarah getting a ring for free? Who?
hold on.
You didn't get the
I-
ring for free.
Heather, I got it.
I was told that you guys
Oh,
got
I
the
got
ring
it.
for free.
When I addressed the
Again,
rings,
backtrack.
I heard you guys paid it back.
hold on,
I heard you guys paid it back.
when I
so-
addressed the ring question and that I was missing payment for 7 rings, okay? We could not account for that money. It was mismanaged money. We couldn't account for that. Anthony, as president, was like, that's my responsibility. I will repay that. I cut a invoice to Anthony for those rings, and he repaid those rings.
So the board members who were part of it,
And
didn't, just
there-
out of nowhere,
There
they
were
got the
seven,
rings and now we gotta pay them back.
7 rings that were unpaid for that we
For the
collected.
cheerleaders, Sarah, Anthony, mom, right? I know, I didn't get a ring for free, and I coached for the whole year. So why are people getting rings for free?
Everybody paid $194.52, and, yes, when we first did the numbers, we were short. Anthony made the rest of that number right.
Okay.
So, and the rings that were not run through the square, he were for his family, so he paid cash for them.
Okay.
So,
And the thing is, how much of those things happened through his tenure as,
we don't know.
well, you guys should know, we're trying to go and cover all this up.
It took us, we started this, you guys, back in July. It took us until now to rebuild every
And my thing is,
single
what
line item in the
made you guys
profile.
start this? Because the rumors that were out?
I felt like it was my
Because
responsibility.
you didn't come
to
on just out
question.
of nowhere. They brought you on so you could go and get things right.
No,
But
no,
what-
it came out of nowhere. He initiated everything. He initiated everything himself.
And what made you, because you're new to the program,
Because
first year ever
I was-
being part of JAF last year.
The city asked him for a report.
I'm saying for you, this is your first year of being part of JAF. What made
as
you
far as
kind
the
of
board,
didn't
I
want to
played
be the
with-
president?
My boys played last year, so I was in the organization last year. This is my first year on the board, yes.
So what made you, just being a dad, like a lot of people in the program who are dads, to say, hey, there's embezzlement going on in this chapter? What made you do that?
No, it wasn't.
No.
That's, no,
No,
it
I
wasn't.
wasn't-
But something had to
it wasn't
happen
that.
for you to say, I want to
so
uncover
What
the
initiated
truth.
that was the city asked me to go.
Why would they
and-
ask you? You weren't even part
Well,
of
first
the
of
board.
all,
No, this year,
when-
I was.
Yeah, this year, I'm talking about
So
last year
again,
though.
we
What
kind of
made
already
you want
covered
to
this a
come on
little
the board?
bit, so.
Well, first of all, when
We already
Sarah
covered-
and, let me
I'm
talk,
just asking
when
to look
Sarah
at what-
and, I'm gonna answer your question. When Sarah and Anthony were the only ones,
I know.
when Sarah and Anthony were the only ones that were involved with the bank account, and they were doing that.
But the bank account, what is even their bank
Well,
account? It was
just,
Margaret's.
let me talk.
But they were the only
okay?
two that
Then
had
they were
access
the
to
ones
it.
that were handling it, not the AD,
So, let's go back to my
Not-
initial statement. So when we.
Guys, hold on, we're never
So
gonna
when
get
it
through this
became
if we
time
keep
for
doing
somebody
this.
else to put their name on the bank account and have to handle it, these people who had to do that said, well, you know, if it's prudent for us to put our name on that bank account, then we wanna make sure it's all done correctly.
And since we
That's
don't have-
why,
it
And
wasn't-
that's
since we don't have
why.
time, because we're getting kicked
So,
out of
no,
here.
we're not
no,
giving
Since
up.
we don't have time, my thing is, what are?
We have time, but
What
let's
have
use
we
it right.
found then? What is all the allegations that happened? right?
So
We know
it
there's a
wasn't
lot of
allegations
information
that
out there.
sparked us
So
to go
let's
back to
address the
January 1.
allegations of what has happened here in Norco Jaaf, just like Eastville got in trouble for a couple years ago for
Well,
embezzlement.
that's the misunderstanding.
So-
The allegations came from Johnny.
Okay, so what are the
Johnny's client.
allegations, let's just go through the allegations that you have versus what's being said, so we know it's real or not.
Trying to
Go through
see
it.
everybody.
Go ahead, let's go
Okay,
through
so-
it.
Go through
Let's
what
go
you
through
found.
it,
So-
and
so
then what
for
is the
the-
action we wanna take as Norco Jaaf?
So for this year, this is accounting everything, so any.
I want everything, like,
Every
what
way we
happened?
took money, Rebecca, back me
We
up, 'cause
collected
this has
it
been
through
a lot, right?
Square,
So
we
have
collected
Square.
it
been
through
a lot.
Sports Engine.
Hold on, we have Square,
Sports Engine,
we have Sports Engine,
Cash and
we have QuickBooks,
and cash and check.
Cash and Check.
That's how we do
Okay,
it.
so reconciling back to the beginning of the year, so it's 7-on-7.
So 2023, so we're not
So-
going in the past.
I'm not going to the past, I'm only going to January 1, that's all I can be responsible.
That's what he wants, the past.
I
He
can't
We
do
doesn't
don't
it.
have any access to
So,
it.
so if you, hold on,
I just don't know
stop,
how we
everybody
don't
stop.
have
If you would like me
access to
to
the
answer
past.
questions from January 1 of 2023 on.
Everything you did in
Hold on,
2023
Jordan,
is great.
Jordan, this isn't gonna happen, dude. You need to let me talk or we're gonna be done.
But we're not talking about when the money was stolen, we're talking about when you came on board.
I can state facts. Would you like me to answer January 1 of 2023 on that I can actually answer to? Because if you wanna go back past January
So
1,
who do we
this
talk?
meeting's done.
So I'm just asking, who do we talk to about all the money that was stolen in the past?
We'd have to talk to the people on the board.
Do
So
we know-
the
do we
board,
know- Do
right?
we know there was meeting? Did we know there's money missing?
100%, we could prove it,
We
so,
can.
yeah, 100%.
So since this is being.
So I just wanna know,
Then
what,
that needs to be taken up with the people that were
So,
on the.
so I
base.
can,
board.
I've only seen the tax returns for the last year, and I can tell you that the financials for the last year showed Anthony as the president and Sarah as the treasurer and VP. They are the two that are responsible for the taxes from last year. Prior to that year, I have not seen taxes, I couldn't tell you who it was.
so nobody on the board has seen anything that happened for the last 2022 and beyond?
That's
No.
correct.
So all the allegations that happened with embezzlement, which is why DeLuca is here now for 2023.
It's not true. I
So
will-
do you not think money was stolen, Davey?
Listen, here's what I'm gonna tell you, that embezzlement is not true, so here's what
So no money was missing from Norco Jaff before DeLuca got
So
here?
I found it. So I found.
You're the commissioner, I can't ask, I'm not on the board.
Hold on, you
So
guys,
I'm only
listen.
asking the people on the board.
Would you like me
All right,
to
let's bring it
answer,
down.
would
Bring
you
it
like
down.
me to answer what I've uncovered?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Factually from 2023 on,
Sure.
I cannot go back. We're not even gonna discuss December 31st, 2022 and beyond, okay? So for this year, SE Jeff, okay? 7-on-7, we have 21 players paid $250, which is $52.50. We have 29 players at $150. That was returners. That equals $44,350. Okay, that's a total of $9,600. Okay, out of that, $4,600 is missing in unpaid registration. However, means that was paid, other than what we can uncover.
In 2023,
Square.
right?
And sports
Sports Engine in check.
Okay.
Or, well, QuickBooks was involved, so Sports Engine, Square,
Okay.
so actual
So
electronic
that's cash or
transactions.
check.
Okay,
We don't know how they were paid, it was probably either cash or check, we're assuming.
yes.
Okay, so there's that one, okay? Because we were able to balance next gen with what we've collected via
To the dollar.
Sports Engine and Square to the dollar. We had 44 kids at $250, that's $11,000. We collected $11,000 for next gen, so that's even. So $4,600 in registration is unaccounted for SC Job 7-on-7. Candy Box fundraiser, I worked with Devin Lee on this, and everybody. We had 26 buyouts at $50 buyout. Then we had 23 who bought the candy box at 60. Am I backwards on that, or is that correct? Okay. So total for all is $2,680. We had $828, which we have an invoice for, that is the candy cost. That brings the total down to $1,852. Devin Lee wrote a check from the money that she collected, which is deposited into our QuickBooks, our B of A bank account for $1,040, which means,
Is this the new bank account or the one with Mark?
this is the new bank account, which means $812 is unaccounted for there.
Okay,
And then Square. So in Square, you can record how you're taking a payment. Okay, so there is, on March 3rd, there's $500. On March 4th, there's $210, there's $150. On March 8th, there's $150. Okay, then we jump over to, I believe this is gonna be Cheer. On June 15th, we had $495 collected in cash. That is unaccounted for. We have a $400 check and a $75 check that essentially never made it to the bank account because I contacted those parents and they have confirmed that that check did not clear their bank, which means it never made it, it wasn't deposited, it wasn't cashed. And then on March 30th, we had $200, so there's $2,180 there. That's recorded in Square.
Okay.
You're asking about merch, okay? We have one invoice, I have all the invoices from Sunset for merchandise.
And can I say something? You can keep going. I'm not questioning 2023 when he took over. I think everyone wants to know about what happened before 2023, which is why he's no longer the president.
All we
right?
can comment
So
on.
who does the attorney go and talk to? Is it the board?
They can talk to Anthony's, right? People that.
Okay, so
file taxes.
we go, and now that's the next step we need to take. Because for you guys are trying to clean it up and clean the mess that was up, right? There's already proof and factual information. There's a lot more that we're not talking about tonight, right? For whatever reason, but,
Everything that we can talk about is the stuff that we can factually prove back to January 1.
and that's the easiest cop out, right? We
No,
can
but-
talk
No,
about
it's- I
this
wish- I
year.
wish- I mean, I
We're
wish
talking
it-
about all the money that has been stolen in the last couple of years.
Right, but you're talking
So
about a
who do
board
we
that
talk-
doesn't
I
have
just wanna
access
know
to any of the
Who do we
financials.
talk to, because it's a nonprofit?
You can have whoever you want talk to the president, vice president, and treasurer that were listed on the tax returns
From whatever year you
from
want
those
to look at.
years. Going back.
Not the board?
On the board.
Not the
Not the
board.
board
Not the
though?
current board has nothing to do.
But the current board and the old board, there's still a lot of people on the same
But
board.
they-
I
Right,
was
but
not-
they had nothing to do with
There's roles
financials.
and responsibilities.
Okay,
So
what-
even when you go down to
Where's the
commissioner,
bylaws that say where the roles and responsibilities
they
are?
absolutely say, go on our
Because
website, look up our
I
bylaws.
was told that in 2022, Anthony rewrote his bylaws in March of 2022, that no one was aware about, that he rewrote the bylaws. Is that true or not true?
Posted on
The bylaws were
posted on-
revised in March
But
of
let's be honest.
2022. No, they
And
weren't.
did anybody, was anybody aware about the rewriting of it?
I wasn't on the board.
We were unaware.
So
wasn't
he
aware.
just rewrote his own bylaws and no one on the board was, so who voted on these new bylaws?
They were, per the bylaws that are posted on the website, they were voted and approved and passed
By the board.
executive board. So whoever.
So who was on the executive board at that time?
That would be, it would have been Anthony, Sarah,
Would have been the treasurer.
So
Well, or,
Davey, Anthony, Sarah, Tawny,
commissioners effectively.
Yeah, I'm on the executive board.
So don't you think it's
but
kinda
we-
odd that he rewrote and revised the bylaws of the rules by himself and you guys were not aware about it? Cause you have to vote on them. There's board minutes for it.
Correct.
So was this just fictitious and he really didn't do it? Or he just changed them on his own so he could have more power?
Or for all we know, he could have just thrown a new date on there and updated it, like the bylaws were updated as of this date to show they were revised.
So would you ever
and
do
they
that
were
as
the same.
president?
No,
Isn't that kinda wrong to do?
I'm not gonna speak for
Sure.
what.
I can't speak for anybody else, but like you would think the board would know that somebody rewrote the bylaws without anybody else
That's a
knowing.
huge assumption.
That's a very, well,
It's a huge
it's,
assumption.
but it happened and it's
No,
listed
it
that he
didn't, it
did
didn't
it.
happen. I know.
Did it happen,
I was
Luca?
I was a commissioner, I
Okay.
never voted on new bylaws.
He said he did it, yes, they
But
were
the
revised.
minute says there's a vote on it.
They were revised,
So
that
that's
did
fine.
happen,
I
Davey
wasn't
said
there.
he never voted
I
on it.
wasn't
Okay, but I'm
voting.
saying, but you guys posted that it was voted on
Who did?
No,
in
nobody.
2022 in March.
Hold on, it is on our bylaws, on the bottom of the bylaws, says it was approved and voted on March 22nd or 22, whatever it was, by the executive board.
So who's the executive board?
That would have been Anthony, Sarah, Davey. Davey is stating that he did
I
not
wasn't
vote
part
for
of
the
that.
bylaws.
Isn't that kinda weird that you
It
could do
it is,
that?
but I can't answer for what they
You
did.
can't, right? But I'm just saying that kinda, we're doing that type of stuff.
But do the bylaws state that they only need to have like a 2/3 vote for the executive board or something like that? Because that could take precedence as well, and just have the three.
So
I
who-
don't, I'd have to look at the bylaws.
So
and
who
see.
else was on the, I just need to know, who was on the executive board that could've gave a 2/3 vote?
in 22.
Just to have, the- like,
2022,
the two
March.
of them that hold three positions,
March of, right?
put that vote.
So you have Tawny, Davey, Anthony, Sarah, any of the wives or anybody?
I wasn't on it.
Heather, were you part of the executive board being cheer coordinator? Did you
Okay.
vote and approve on the board minutes?
I would have to recall the minutes, I don't actually
Okay,
remember.
so his
That was a
wife
long
was
time
on it?
ago.
So Heather, Anthony, Tawny, Davey, Anthony,
Nobody
Sarah.
remembers
So
voting.
if Sarah,
I wanna
Heather,
be clear that I
Nobody
did not
remembers
vote.
voting.
I believe that. So if Sarah,
Like, you keep
I'm just
throwing
saying-
my name in there.
but because I just wanna know
If
who
I
the
would've voted
executive
for
board,
something, I would've said I voted for
right?
something.
I just wanna know
Nothing to
who
shy
was
away
the
from.
executive
Sure.
board.
Nothing to shy
David,
away
I'm not
from.
really talking to you, I'm saying the executive board at that time was
So the-
Heather, Tawny, Davey, Anthony, Sarah.
So the,
Am I
so
missing
I have the
anyone?
bylaws. The bylaws were last modified and approved on March 20th of 2022. by the 2022 Norco Jaaf Executive Board. This is what's stated on our.
So all the board, they're stating in
Who's the
there.
secretary?
Was that-
where they changed it to
So
opposed
it's.
I don't
all the
know what
votes-
was changed.
Okay, so how many votes do you need to be able to go change the bylaws?
Anthony did it.
So if it was Heather, Anthony, and Sarah,
Majority
they
vote,
could have got
majority.
it?
You need
It
the
says
majority vote.
majority. So the majority vote has to happen.
Yeah.
But it's also majority of people that are in attendance.
So you have to have a quorum, so if we have, let's just call for our numbers, 20 people on the board. Okay, you have to have more than half to have a quorum to actually pass a vote. So if we had
And
12
as hard,
people.
and as hard as
if
the
we had 12
conversation
people,
this is
you
to
could pass
have,
a
I
vote.
know there's people here for the right reason who've been bleeding fucking blue their whole life. But clearly, if there's money missing, and we don't have money to pay our fields and the reps, and we're in debt 20 grand.
Hold on,
Well, we did.
But like we talked about earlier,
We do have money
20
in the fields.
for sure,
We
but
are not in
we're
debt, we're in
still,
a positive position.
but we still owe money.
No.
They're
But
not- they're the-
before
You're
though,
not- you're not-
before you
you're not
came
at the board
in,
meeting?
it says it was $20,000 we still owed, right?
That
So,
was
so
from
we
the
did owe
previous
money
year.
We owed money,
this year for last year's season,
for sure.
so yes, which.
So we still
it
owed
was
some
paid-
money, right?
We still owe some money that has been paid and
That's
we
all
are
I'm
going
asking
to
about.
have a
So,
positive amount to make it.
so as of right now, between the city and the school district, we probably owe $7,000 out of $35,000.
So the people in the community, who as we're voting these people on the board every single year, they don't have this information? Cause there's a lot of people that aren't here tonight who didn't know about this
We
meeting.
literally just finished this today. It's been.
You wanna know, this was presented to the board today.
I know, and I got the email today about all this, so trust
Well,
me,
good for you,
I was
but
very
it was
transparent
literally
on,
brought to us
hey, what the
today.
hell's going on in our youth
It literally was
community?
brought to us today. Johnny and Rebecca and Tawny have been working on this quietly.
Jordan, I got your
Since
text
July,
message
they brought
2
it to us
minutes after we
today.
talked about
How
how we were
crazy
gonna
was
approach
that?
it
And the
tonight.
email went out that
And
time.
to be honest with you, nobody else sitting at this board right now knows every intricacy of what we're doing and everything that.
But I think everybody in our chapter needs to know.
They do,
what's
but I
taking
can't do that
place.
until I have facts. I can't.
So you don't
come-
have facts on things?
So what he basically told you about the numbers that are out, that's all that we can factually prove right now.
Okay, so
That's-
there's
We can
more though.
assume a lot of things.
So-
Everybody can assume a lot
So
of things. but I'm
factually,
not
we
gonna
don't
go
know
on.
any of this happened. We're just gonna go
What are you
kinda.
talking about?
What are you talking about?
Actually, we can
Factually,
only
we can
speak
tell you.
He read
since
you the
January
list.
first,
Right.
because that's when we were part of the
Okay, so
board,
for
and that's what we have
2023
access
up,
to.
that's all we're gonna address.
That's all I am responsible, my fiduciary responsibility
Mhm.
is to address
Fiduciary
anything
duty for
from
sure.
January 1st through the close of this year.
Okay.
I was just voted on as president for next year, so that'll be my responsibility for the 2024 season.
And everybody who was a part of the board before and the former president and their board, they'll address everything else, or they're just kinda, it's just kinda on to the next.
They would
If
have
you
to,
have
because we can't
questions-
speak on that, because
Okay,
we don't
no
have
problem.
access to prior years.
And
We
who was
have
the
access to
executive
what-
board member before, who was the executive board before that?
Literally
list that
just
you
Was it
put
that,
out.
that same list? Okay.
So this, everything that we have done is being turned into the city. The city has
Yeah, this
requested.
isn't funny, bro. We're talking about $150,000 possibly stolen,
I
charging
agree.
kids for more rings that
Where
don't
did
even
you
charge.
get that
They
number?
have all this information, they don't want it out.
I will
So
tell you.
it's gonna be,
I will
discuss it.
honestly tell you, and I'll put my name on that, from what I can uncover.
You could only cover
Hold on,
2023, bro.
We lost 60 participants this year, okay? Even if we have those participants, I am not going to end in a positive cash flow of $150,000.
How many years have
There's
you-
no way.
How many years have people been running this before you came in?
How long is Anthony, let's,
50 years, Jeff's been around 50
Yeah.
years.
For what, 2 years with
No,
Anthony?
50.
how long is Anthony? 2 years. So 2020, he took over after,
Well,
So 2020?
2020 didn't have a season, so.
So 21, 22?
so 21, 22
He was
is.
voted in
is-
in 2020, but there was no season.
There you go.
Okay.
So when the city has asked for this, I have a report that is being put together, right, with facts, that's all I can present. That is going to the city. At that point, it is in the city's hands to do with what they want. That is not my responsibility.
Where did you get your numbers?
There's no
It
150,000.
will
I wish
be-
there was,
it'll
because we'd
be
have a whole lot of
shared,
money for
so
equipment.
it'll be shared, so go ahead. I just
So-
wanna know, and it's hard for you because you're saying, I came in, I'm only gonna talk about 2023. Well, none of the miscellaneous
can't-
funds happened before.
If somebody tasked me
before
with
you
going
came
back to
in.
2022, there's absolutely no way in my power
You can't do
can I
that.
rebuild that.
But the board should have books.
We don't,
There has
we
to-
told you we don't. We
Maddox,
don't
you've been
have
around
that's what
forever, bro.
sparked- that's-
Every board has books.
We
You
don't.
have the financial statements of
We-
any
we
organization.
requested
Any-
the books
Any
and we-
organization that runs a business that collects money, a nonprofit or for-profit, has books. There's a profit and loss
So
statement.
unless you can go back in time 2
Like-
years ago, this is a moot point. There's nothing we can do. We didn't have books. We now have books.
Okay,
We are
then-
taking the right step forward, but I cannot go past.
But legally,
It's
they need to
that-
go after people who stole the money. It's not
I
about
don't-
paying the money back.
Can you imagine, first of all, legally, we don't have to do anything.
You guys don't, but the people in the community
Can you
can't
imagine
even
if
get stolen.
if I went after people that we're assuming or we're proving, and I spent their registration dollars on attorney fees? I'm telling you right now, I'll spend more on attorney fees going after somebody than what we are even gonna collect.
Well, Ramirez from Junior Micro on Maddox's team is the district attorney. He said he has no problem going after this because they stole from his kid.
Then at that
So
point,
I just wanna know
you
who
can
he
do whatever
needs
you
to
want.
communicate.
Then we
Yeah,
would be
we
happy
could
to
go,
turn it
yeah,
over
we
to
would have
them.
no problem. So
Then
I
you
need
can
your
have every
guys'
finding
true,
we have.
I just need your true facts of what you uncovered and what is it that we uncovered? And it's just simple, there's a lot of things that we uncovered.
I just
So
told you.
from 2022 beyond, when all the money was missing, we're over here smiling like this is cute. We just stole from our kids, from our community. We need more bags. We need a field goal post. We need cones.
I just
We
told you
need
have
new helmets.
$35,000
There's a
in
lot
bank
of
account.
things
We can
we
buy
need.
that.
Yeah, how crazy is that? When you took over, we had $35,000 down the bank account.
That's
What
because
happened to the
we
money
have an
before
accounting
us?
System so we can manage it. Nobody here. at
So
this-
there's been mismanaged of funds,
100%.
right? Let's just
Correct.
say
Agree with
that.
that.
There- yeah,
Let's all
Nobody
agree that
disagrees.
there's, that's all I'm trying to
there's
say.
been mismanagement.
You
And
literally
Anthony
said that. You
himself,
want answers from people that can't give you answers.
Anthony
Anthony's
himself
not
has
here.
admitted
were
it's
not
been
on the bank
mismanagement,
account.
but
Okay.
nobody at this table can do anything about the mismanagement of funds prior to us implementing this accounting system. We had to go back to January 1st and rebuild books, which we have effectively done. So prior to January 1st, we're pulling a rabbit out of a hat. There's no way we can.
Of course,
figure
if
that
no
out.
one's gonna give you
There's-
books
there's
from the
no way.
business you just bought or took
So
over,
other than what we
usually
have
it comes with
uncovered-
information of what you're getting into.
So other
The
than
fact
what
that
we-
we have no information and no books or no numbers, that's pretty freaking odd. I'm sure everyone could agree on
Gordon, what would
that.
you like done? You tell me your answer to this, and I'll tell you if it can be done.
I think we need to hold the people accountable that allowed this to happen.
Then by
We're
all
on the
means-
same page.
I'm not stopping you from doing
We're
it.
on the same page, but
Okay,
we're over
that's-
here
that's
acting
fine.
attacking the people that are here.
If you-
No, I wanna make
I feel
sure
like
that
we're
this
being
never
attacked
happens
though,
again.
too.
Right.
Huh?
We feel like we're being attacked
You're-
though too,
Of course, because you're on the board.
but we can't speak to anything prior to January
We weren't
first.
on the board
We weren't on the
prior
board
to
then.
20.
So,
Agree.
so who wasn't on the board before, besides this year?
I was.
Was not.
No,
Was
Who
not.
was not?
Was?
Who was on the board before then? Okay, then we have to go and have these conversations.
And you are more than welcome to do whatever you want to try to have those conversations.
But you should do just as much. They rob from us, and they rob from the kids, and they rob from the program. It's like, hey, screw it,
hold on,
it is what
stop.
it is.
Accusing
Yeah,
any of
but
us
the
of
two
robbing
people that were on the
anything.
board before did
People-
not know that was happening. There were only two there, okay? They did not know that anything was being robbed or
These
stolen.
two had nothing, they had nothing to do with money.
I'm not
No, I know,
accusing them
but B,
of that. I'm
they
just
also
asking for
didn't
the
have any-
information so we can go and make sure this doesn't happen
So,
again.
so you can absolutely ask us.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
You can absolutely ask who's on the board.
Yeah, but what about the things that just happened in the past? Because the guy who just robbed from us is now the Booster Club
You
president of
keep
the high
saying
school.
robbed.
It's-
What was money
proof
not-
do you have that
It is-
money
it is
was
mismanagement.
taken?
We will post the proof, don't
It is-
worry.
It is
Then
mis-
do it.
it
Then
is
It's
say
going
it.
to happen, don't worry.
But you have no proof that anyone was stolen. So instead of throwing out accusations that someone robbed something, you actually have to present proof.
So no cash got turned into the league for a year and a half? So no one paid cash? Because I know kids who pay cash to the league.
Jordan, November
So no cash
22nd
got
of
turned in
2022
to the
is on
bank
your-
account?
You heard what was presented.
So what was presented, that we can't track these things down? Because I know kids that pay cash for the league and for apparel, and if there's no cash that got turned in 18 months, it's kind of odd that people pay cash.
No, it's
and-
only-
You never once said that.
When's the last time cash got turned in?
November
November
2022.
2022.
So a year and a half.
A year.
No.
1 year.
So a
Last
year,
November.
so it's been a year
A
since
year
cash got turned in.
and 20 days,
Okay.
whatever that may be. So yes, that is true and correct.
No, cash has been turned in since.
No,
Oh,
cash is
sorry,
in.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have collected cash.
Yes, you have.
Absolutely.
This, for this, yes.
So you don't think any cash got turned into the program?
I can't, nobody can, so here's the thing, you're going back there again. Facts.
No,
If you have facts,
100%.
go ahead and present them to whoever you feel like you wanna present them to. I have my facts back to January 1, and that's what we're gonna talk on.
And-
I can't go back any further.
And if you're gonna take this further, Jordan, by all means, we are more than happy to turn over whatever logins we need to
Yes,
your
it's all public
investigators.
information,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
It's a
Absolutely.
nonprofit,
Whatever
we
you
gotta
guys
make sure
want,
what's going
you can
on
have. The
is
only-
done the right way.
Right, the
The
only
last thing we
thing-
want this is to transition to the high school.
Right, and like I said, when this started, it wasn't about, trying to find, catch someone stealing from the league. It was
I
trying
thought
to.
it was, that's why. we
No,
brought it
No,
up.
no, it wasn't. So when we started, it was,
It had
okay,
nothing to do with that.
if we step in and I take on a VP role and he takes on the president role, we now become financially responsible. The only way that I was willing to do that was if we accounted back to
And did it the
January
right
one.
way.
And I said it at the very beginning, the only way you're gonna get my name on anything is if we account back to January one. Now, amongst accounting back to January one, we found that there was missing money, yes.
Just in that short time period,
We can
right?
chalk it up to that.
So just in that short time period, we found
Right,
stuff.
because we don't have access to everything, we weren't collecting the cash, so all
We
we
didn't
can
have profit or
show.
loss statements, we had nothing.
Right, so all we can show is what we downloaded out of Square, what we downloaded out of Sports Engine, what we downloaded out of the bank details that we had access to for Chase, and what we downloaded out of our current bank for B of A. All of that has been put into QuickBooks.
So
and
all card and transaction have been taken care of.
everything back to January one
Sure.
has been accounted for.
So
Those-
essentially, their
those are numbers
financial
I
records are
just read you off
basically
the
their
phone.
bank
For sure, and I
records,
get it.
period.
So like I said, it was never about trying to catch someone stealing. It started out because and in the midst of us taking over, the city called up and said, hey, why do I have financials that show you're gonna be 8,000 or whatever it was in the negative, in the negative operating this year? We need you to show us that you guys are gonna be able to financially operate this year. So that kind of made it even more of an important thing for us to go back and build back to all the way to
And
January
I
one.
hear, I thought DeLuca
So-
was brought in, it was made very clear that money is being
that's
missing.
not
And Christensen called out on it.
A
And then
lot
we
of-
said,
but
hey,
people
we're
made
gonna bring
accusations last
DeLuca
year
in
too.
to make sure that he could get a true what? QuickBooks and something set up instead of Excel sheet, we could delete stuff out of and get it.
And-
We all been around
And
this,
that's
we
why
see
we,
what's
and that's why we
here.
implemented QuickBooks, because Microsoft Excel is not a way to keep
Yeah,
accounts.
it's-
So,
it's
and
fraud.
QuickBooks communicates live with Sports Engine, it communicates live with all of our transactions, so we don't have to pull, now we've got it set up to where we don't have to pull that information in. It all comes
It
in
auto-populates
as
in
soon
QuickBooks.
as a charge is made, or as soon as someone registers, it all comes in and it's all accounted for. So that is something that,
And I don't think 2023 is in question because you guys have what, $30,000 left over?
Right, but you're asking
Great
us to
job.
comment on shortages, the only shortages we can comment on are what we found in
Are-
2023.
What we found
For
this
sure,
year.
and
So we-
I was told that the reason why Sarah and Anthony quit was because DeLuca was coming in and he was gonna go fact check everything.
No.
No,
and it happened.
DeLuca was part of the board starting January as the sponsorship and council. We lost our president and vice president in that meeting.
And they quit just because
Or
they
within
wanted to
that
quit.
We already addressed why they
We,
quit.
I can't speak to why they quit,
For
but
sure.
they quit. So we were left with an interim president. Davey was president for a hot second.
One meeting.
Because of the commission, because that's the natural selection. He became interim president. We operated that way. We had to reevaluate roles. A lot of people got switched around and moved around so we can take on the responsibility that was left for the rest of the board members that were there. And then Davey made it a point to say, Johnny's been doing a lot of this work.